March 6, 1836. The day the Battle of the Alamo reached its bloody and inevitable conclusion. For the Texian rebels, it was a day of death and martyrdom. For the Mexican soldiers, it was the end of a long siege. But beyond the smoke of gunfire and the flags that flew overhead, there is another story, one that is often left untold. This is the account of a Mexican soldier caught in the fierce struggle whose heart and soul were tested by the horrors of war. Today, we will explore the Battle of the Alamo through the eyes of a Mexican soldier who fought for General Santa Anna. His perspective offers a glimpse into the toll the battle took on those who fought not for glory but for duty, and perhaps, just like the defenders of the Alamo, for the simple hope of survival. The Mexican army's march to the Alamo. The road to the Alamo was not an easy one. The Mexican army, led by General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, had been marching across Texas for weeks. Their objective was clear: crush the rebellion, end the Texian fight for independence, and reclaim what Mexico believed was rightfully theirs. The soldiers who followed Santa Anna weren't just men of military rank. They were farmers, laborers, and peasants, men who had enlisted not out of a desire for glory, but out of duty to their country. To many of them, this wasn't about freedom or independence. It was about defending Mexico's sovereignty, no matter the cost. For one soldier, whom we will call Rafael, the journey to the Alamo was one of quiet dread. As he marched alongside thousands of fellow soldiers, he couldn't help but wonder if he would see his family again, or if he would ever return to the simple life he left behind. The weight of the mission was heavy, and the uncertainty of what lay ahead haunted him. The Siege of the Alamo. Rafael and his fellow soldiers arrived at the Alamo on February 23, 1836. The Texian rebels had taken refuge inside the old mission, a strategic location that had now become their final stand. For over a week, Rafael and the Mexican army laid siege to the Alamo, cutting off supplies and waiting for the inevitable final assault. The siege was grueling. The Texians inside were determined, resolute in their fight for independence. The Mexican soldiers, on the other hand, were tired and frustrated. The conditions were harsh, and there was a growing sense of unease among them. The Mexican army had superior numbers, but the longer the siege dragged on, the more the soldiers began to question whether the victory would be worth the cost. Rafael, though, focused on his duty. He had seen countless battles before, but something about this mission felt different. The walls of the Alamo felt like an impregnable fortress. Every night, Rafael lay awake, listening to the distant sounds of Texian guns, wondering if tomorrow would be the day they would finally break through. The final assault. On the morning of March 6th, the assault began. Santa Anna had given the order. The time had come to breach the walls of the Alamo and end the rebellion. As the sun rose over the horizon, the Mexican soldiers readied themselves for what was about to unfold, a massacre that would be remembered for generations. For Rafael, the final assault was nothing like he had imagined. There was no glorious charge, no moments of triumph. Instead, it was chaos, gunfire, and cannon blasts filling the air as the soldiers rushed forward under the cover of smoke. Rafael found himself pushing forward with his comrades, climbing over the broken walls and stepping over the fallen. As the Mexican forces overwhelmed the Alamo's defenses, Rafael couldn't help but feel a sinking feeling in his chest. The battle had been brutal. Texian defenders fell, some fighting to the last breath. But there was one thing Rafael couldn't ignore: the faces of the men on both sides, men who were fighting not for ideals or causes, but for survival. Amidst the gunfire and bloodshed, Rafael saw one of the Texian rebels, a young man no older than himself, screaming as he fell to the ground. He thought of his own brother back in Mexico. Would his brother's fate be the same as this young Texian's? Was this truly the price of victory? The aftermath. When the battle was over, the Alamo was in ruins. The Mexican soldiers had won, but at a great cost. The dead, both Texian and Mexican, lay scattered across the mission grounds. For many, the victory felt hollow. For Rafael, the aftermath was a moment of silence. His comrades celebrated the victory, but Rafael could not bring himself to join them. He had seen too much. The bloodshed, the screams, the faces of young men who had fought for causes they didn't fully understand. This wasn't victory. It was survival, plain and simple. The victory at the Alamo would later be remembered as a rallying cry for the Texian cause. Remember the Alamo became a battle cry, driving the rebels forward. But for Rafael and the soldiers who fought there, the memory of the Alamo was not one of glory. It was a reminder of the horrors of war, of the human cost of every battle fought. The reflection. As the Mexican army moved on from the Alamo and continued their campaign across Texas, Rafael found himself haunted by the faces of the men who died. He could no longer view the war as simply a conflict between two sides. It was a war of human beings fighting for survival, for freedom, for something that could never be fully understood. Rafael would survive the war, but the Alamo would remain with him always. He would carry the memories of that day, the faces of those who died, and the question that would never leave his mind: was the battle for freedom ever truly worth the price of so many lives? The Battle of the Alamo is often remembered as a heroic stand by the Texians, but it was also a battle with heavy consequences for the Mexican soldiers who fought. Through the eyes of Rafael, we see that victory is not always as clear-cut as it appears. For those who fought there, the cost was far greater than anyone could have imagined. Thank you for watching. If you found this story impactful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. History is full of untold stories, and together we can continue to uncover them.